Done.
All right, welcome everyone. Obviously, I'd like to welcome everybody and to the advisory committee meeting this evening, February 21st, 2024. First order of business is approval of the January 17th, 2024 advisory committee minutes. Did everyone have the opportunity to review those? Yes. So do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
I have Marie F., Mary Burnett, and I believe that was Craig.
Yes.
So, one of you want to be a second?
Whatever.
All right, Marie, be second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. The next order of business is the 109 board update. I would imagine Pete or Karen is going to give us that.
Doesn't matter to me, Pete. Did you want to talk about the appointees? Okay. Well, I do have the slide pulled up that that you had on your PowerPoint for the board meeting. So I'll share that real quick, which was this appointments to the advisory committee. So I wanted to go ahead and make sure we did this right away so that we could welcome Corinne Greenberg as a new advisory committee member. And also Bob Lee is now on the, I didn't see him on the call yet, but is now on the advisory committee, replacing Ked and then Brian Slade. And sorry, all the others were reappointed. And the other update from the board was, if you weren't on last month's meeting, we did get approval for funding for another anti-litter campaign, similar to what we did last year, which was the It Adds Up campaign. And the next one done by the same vendor, Field Trip. Their idea is to call it Clean Together. So we've been in the planning stages for that. But immediately once we got the approval from the board, we were getting started on that. Do you want me to share any of those slides? I can't remember if I've done that before for this committee.
I would like to, for people to kind of get an understanding of what we're doing as far as anti-litter education. I think that we're excited. This will be our second year to be able to do that. So we can show some of the slides.
Yeah, I have, let's see. Hold on. Okay, everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
This is, so the beginning of this slide or this PDF that we have is actually kind of a refresher on the entire campaign that we've asked Field Trip to help us with, which has to do with these strategies of behavior change, who our audiences are in this, and what that environmental mindset is coming together for this key insight, which is basically to put waste in its place. And if you recall, they have these audiences in categories, and we're focusing more on the blue, not as much on this top category that doesn't really need as much encouragement and help because they're already doing a lot. So there's the status quo, the skeptical, and then the underserved communities. And then I won't go into all of these because I'm pretty sure I have before, but I wanted to, share, this is kind of helping us see what will be done with this next campaign as well. We'll look at litter complaints as a measurement, and this new campaign concept is Clean Together. So it uses some of the colors and fonts as the It Adds Up campaign, but it has a new feel to it, which is more about, these are of course just mock-ups that they did, but we're planning on doing a photo shoot with, and maybe do some videos as well with some staff that it's not just Metro staff, but we want to pull in maybe, we need cooperation from anyone, but a TARC employee that helps keep bus stops clean. We have the Clean Collaborative group, and maybe a private waste haulers, like a waste collector that works for a private hauler, possibly, and maybe someone from the Department of Transportation that helps with keeping the interstates clean. So trying to pull together a lot of just that it takes everyone, and we want this message to help people see that, we have a lot of staff and even volunteers that are helping, and we want their help too. And they can be, just like we did with the It Adds Up campaign, we can make them specific to neighborhoods. And this is just another example of what a billboard could look like. So that's basically the idea of it. And then they're, of course, sharing with us some of the measures that they want us to do and how much, what the investment is. We're using some, the litter abatement funding. We did not add on for this extension here. It's just the subtotal here. So the district approved that the funding, and also that I believe 25,000 of the litter abatement funds can go to that. So that's basically that. Are there any questions about that campaign? It's still in the planning stages, so.
Thank you, Karen. Anyone have any
The other-
questions? Or
We have another thing that we would like to do. Sorry, I forgot to get this one pulled up, and I'm having to get my login information here. But as going along with this, what we would like to do for another measurement is to push out a survey that measures perception in Louisville, of Louisville residents, kind of like perception about litter. There are, of course, things that we know people will end up saying, but that's okay. We think that it would be good to have a baseline of a general survey about perceptions, and that way, if we then do some of these campaigns, do some all kinds of things that we wouldn't want to do, and then measure again, hopefully we can shift that a little bit. So I think, let's see. I have a draft. Pete, were you thinking I can just pull this up?
You can pull it up, or would it be better just to send it to the individual advisory committee members and let them take it and give us feedback?
Yeah, it's up to you all. I can share it now or just share it in an email, and but we kind of are putting it out there for people we know and some staff and leadership before it's public, just to make sure that the questions make sense, and that we would get results that we want, or not results that we want, but it's not, you know what I mean? It's good questions. I sent it to a few people already, and I have not made an edit, but there was a suggestion on one of the things. I'll share it real quick just so you can kind of look at it, and I'll show you what I mean about branching logic is what it's called. So of course, we want people to be in Louisville and old enough to be taking our survey. We do want to know people's zip codes. So not only do we know where they've come from, but that we can gauge that we've received surveys from around the entire county. And then just the basic question, is litter in Louisville a problem? And then some statements that you either strongly agree or disagree with. But I wanted to show you, like, where do you see the greatest amount of litter? If you choose other, it pops up a place for you where you have to describe what you want to say, if it's not something here. Most commonly littered items, same idea here. If something that you think isn't listed, if you choose other, it pops up that box. If you uncheck it, it goes away.
Would you mind
And
going back
then-
up to where do you see litter for a second? I was looking at those.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
Thank you. I was just gonna say, one of the main, when I've done some drive arounds with different groups and people, the alleys, you have local highways and streets. Do we want to make alleys separate or break that out?
I
I
th-
don't
Yeah,
know.
I think that's a good point.
Alleys are really trashed in a lot of neighborhoods. Okay, just a thought. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you.
Why do you need, going back since we just went back, why do you need somebody's age? I think it's going to deter some people from answering you.
Well, I think it's just, if you don't live in Louisville, and maybe if you're like 12, I don't know.
Not
You-
asking for
you don't
age,
really-
just
So
asking
where
to
are you
say-
going to disperse this so that people living in Timbuktu get it?
Well, anything
Where-
on
where
social
will it be
media.
going?
If I share it on my
Okay.
page, I have friends that live in California and they could look
Yeah,
at it
I hear
and
you.
realize they don't need to take it.
I hear you. But I don't think being well, I don't know. I mean, I can see high school kids being valuable responders.
Yeah, well, we could discuss the old enough thing. I did look at a survey from New Orleans or Louisiana. Maybe it was, I don't know if it was New Orleans or not, but like a Keep Louisiana Beautiful survey as a mock-up that kind of helped me with this, and they did ask that. So we can get some opinions on the 18 years of age, but I do want to know if people live in Louisville or not.
Yeah, I hear you.
And then, how often do you physically see people litter? What age group is most likely to litter? Again, these are perceptions, so we just want to know what people think. It's not like there's a right or wrong answer. Do most people litter on purpose or accidentally? Top reason people litter. Which best describes, and then it gets personal. So which best describes your littering behavior? And based on, like, if they say, well, I have littered in the past year, it gives questions about that. So describe how you littered. If it was on purpose, what was the situation? That kind of thing. So I'm showing you this because, and I'll send it in an email, but if you can take the survey and just sort of take it as a, give yourself an idea of what it would be like to take it, but also understand that when you change your answer, like I used to litter, it has a box that asks what made you stop littering. So, and then, or maybe you've never littered. Why would an individual be more likely to litter at one of these types of places? Who should mainly be responsible for cleaning up litter? How often do you pick up litter? And then this will go along with the idea that if we're doing these campaigns, we hope that eventually we'll get more and more responses that you've actually heard litter preventive messaging in Louisville. And then just a few demographic type questions to understand where people are coming from.
Well,
So
why do you care what their gender is? I mean, littering is, into my mind, non-gender related.
Well, I would say that you would think that, but uh,
Are you going to say men are worse than women?
yes,
Oh,
16 or 18 or 16 to 34-year-olds are 3 times more likely to litter than other age groups. All of this comes from Keep America Beautiful. But it's these types of things that Keep America Beautiful has asked on their type stuff. So
Yeah, and I think, it's very valid to ask age and gender because we're not actually surveying litter. We're surveying perception on litter. And we may find out that certain perceptions are skewed to a certain gender or a certain age cohort, that if a certain age cohort, people this age, all overwhelmingly perceive this, and if it's not reflected in the other respondents, that's a valid measurement. So
Mhm.
that's what we're trying to measure. We're trying to measure perception and to see if it's affected by other socio-demographic factors.
it's a good point.
thank you. It is somewhat, I mean, it seems lengthy, but remember, if you're taking the survey, you don't have to play around with what the choices are. So I do appreciate anyone's time. If you take it, I'm curious how long it would take someone to take the survey as well, because when I share it, I like with surveys, it's good to say about how long it will take you to take a survey so that you know what you're getting into when you do it. So,
And
that's
Brandon
good.
has
Yes.
got a really good point in the chat room, and he's
I'm
already
looking for
got
it.
2
There it
people
is.
agreeing with him.
Okay, what is this? I'm looking. Smokers versus non-smokers. Okay, that's true. Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right, so I'll actually put this link in the chat so that anyone on here, you can go ahead and look at it, and then also I'll email it out. So I will take any suggestions. It's a lot to look at all at once, as a group. So I wanted to give you an idea of how that branching logic goes. It's kind of complicated when you're making the survey, but whenever it makes sense as you answer questions. So any other thoughts on that?
Very much like Brandon's comment. I think the people who pull up to a traffic light and empty out their ashtray are probably the most aggravating people in the world. And it just strikes a nerve with me. And I think I would like to use that as an example of who truly is a litter bug and who's not. I think you should add accidentally on purpose to what's your litter habits. Because a lot of people
Yes.
say it's an accident, but once an accident, twice on purpose. Any other comments?
All right. So yeah, we'll hopefully, if you all take some time with that, that would be very helpful. And the next thing is district website updates. I just wanted to share, because I don't think I have with this group formally yet. Let's see. Let me get back on okay. So the waste district website has changed, and it is on the louisvilleky.gov large, it's like the main city website. It's on there. So if you just go to louisvilleky.gov, there's a list of departments, and sorry, see, they only show so many. So you would have to actually hit see all departments if you don't have the page bookmarked, but it is here, Waste Management District. And then, so it's very similar to the other page as far as what was on it, but it's moved. And now on the front page here, there's some links. This is the district meeting page. So you can find the agendas, minutes and videos when they're ready to be shared, if there happens to be any documents or presentations. And then also, if you want to see who the members are, I just have a page with the board members and the district or the advisory committee members listed as well, and what they represent. And then just a few other links to some important documents like the 5-year plan, ordinances, the solid waste study, litter, recycling, so education page, illegal dumping. So if you're, it should go, I forgot to test it before the meeting, but it's supposed to go from LouisvilleWasteDistrict.org. It's still supposed to go to that page. I had trouble with that working and they fixed it supposedly, but I forgot to test it. So, so if anybody wants to try that, you could.
Just to let everybody know, the reason that we had to create it under KY.gov was cyber security for Louisville Metro wasn't happy with us having an external site that had links into the Metro site, as it was a security risk. So they really wanted us to come under their umbrella so that they can protect it and protect Metro government, because it, you know, everybody's getting hit by these attacks all the time. So that's the reason that we had to pull it back into here. We would actually prefer to keep it separate, but we felt like that this was probably the best thing to do, and they really wasn't going to give us much of a choice anyway.
Yep. Any other questions about that? All right. Well, the next item on the agenda, I am going to pass it over to Pete. It's for the contract subcommittee and the RFP.
Okay, so Adam, do you want to introduce this as you, the chair of the contracts committee? Or you want me to?
I think you can go right ahead, Pete.
Okay, that's fine. First off, we have collapsed the subcommittees back into the full committee. Contracts wise, we were getting pretty close to being done with anything that was we could work on through contracts, which was the capture rate study, which still has, we have it, it's been put out, it's been bid on, and I don't know why it's not closed yet. The other one was construction and demolition debris, which when we started looking into it, we came up against a few things related to shingles that kind of sidetracked us. And then we was gonna head into the gypsum, and we're still gonna pursue that, but we're kind of slowed down on it a little bit. So we came into this one with the education committee. There's been a whole lot of work done. The committee's done a great job, but we kind of feel like that bringing everybody back together at this point might help us to speed through these. So to go into this, the contract, I think we brought this to the full committee last time that this group met. And really what it ended up being is it was sent back to the subcommittee for additional discussion, which took place last Tuesday. So I'm not sure, did this get sent out with the meeting invite, this draft?
No, it did not.
Can you send that? I'll go ahead and share it to the group. Okay, so for those not familiar with it, okay, what we're trying to do is it's cost of services study across the solid waste management area, so that we can see what's going on. So this came directly from the 5-year solid waste management plan. A lot of the wording is pretty much verbatim. but we put it into what we consider kind of our template. So I'll go through it really quick. The first section is the Waste District's adopted mission statement. The second part was background, and this was something that through our other RFPs that we've conducted. Is that an echo that I have? I'm sorry. That we decided that we was going to put into any RFP that kind of gives a little bit of a background of who we are. We referenced existing documents. We had two. Decided at the committee that we would strike the second one, but this is a link to the 5-year solid waste management plan that any bidder would be able to access easily. Then we went into the scope, which this is the most important part, and I believe that it's almost identical to the 5-year solid waste management plan action item, and I think that was discussed ad nauseum during the 5-year solid waste management plan. It was sent out to obviously for public comment, and really the first version that was put out had some added language, which it kind of put a little spin on it. In which case, I agree that it shouldn't have been there, and we took it out. So. The last part is obviously the seeking the bids, and we want their qualifications, statements of qualification, price estimates, and most importantly, their methodologies to deliver a strong, statistically significant result at the best possible cost. So we also added bidders are required to attend a pre-bid meeting in order to participate in the bidding process. So we want to hear from people before they make the bid so that we can ensure that they're understanding what we want. We don't want copy paste. We don't want subjective topic or content. We want a fact-based RFP that gives us really our goal, which is a set of facts in which we can make decisions on. I did go to the. And there's a big echo. Do y'all hear it? And there's a big echo.
Yeah, I can hear the echo.
Yeah. If anybody's not, if you could, I guess, mute yourself, might help. And the one thing I will say is I went to the purchasing website, and that is listed as an option. Bidders are required to attend pre-bid meetings. All we have to do is select that, and that's what would happen. So that part's there. These are the required content of the proposals to do the study that the bidders, and really these are our percentages. Sometimes when we give percentages, the purchasing department comes back and says, you guys might not want to do that. I mean, they do this all the time. So they might suggest a little bit different percentages. So the other part about this is the two things. Number one, the pre-bid meeting and making sure that we have representatives that can ensure that we're given a fair and even commentary to the bidders. And then the second one is the evaluation of the bids. And typically in the past, we've used Sandra and Bruce Burrow and myself and Karen, and I think that's 4. But that's basically what it is, so that they can come in. They're given a score, and that's how the bid is awarded. So once this went back to the committee, there really wasn't a whole lot of discussion other than removing this. A vote was taken, and it was passed out of the subcommittee as its last official action. And so it's here at the full advisory committee, and would open up for a discussion and to see if we can't get this passed tonight and on to the 109 board next week. So that is the study. So willing to discuss it. Any concerns that anybody has?
Pete, I have a question that I'm somewhat concerned about. How many qualified bidders are going to be required for a all-encompassing view of the project? I know last time we had one qualified bidder and one unqualified bidder.
Yeah, I feel like that we need to cast a really wide net on this. I think that this is a little bit more, so a little bit a bigger proposal than the capture rate study that you're discussing. So I think that we need to push it out there to a lot of people as we can. Whether or not that we get the right bidder, it could be that we get one bidder and it's exactly what we're looking for. And so that's an acceptable bid in my mind. Otherwise, I would say that we get enough bids that we get a qualified bidder that meets our consideration. If we don't get somebody that we feel like that their proposal is good, we don't have to accept the proposals. Maybe we send it out a second time.
Good. I just hope that we have multiple respondents so that we have different opinions, because a lot of times there's those surprises in there that shed some new light on something. So my only
Agreed.
comment.
I think it's good.
Any other questions from any board members? We need a vote to send this out, correct?
Yes, sir.
I have a question. And I'm just looking at the scoring. If we give 30% weighting to examples of previous work, you could have a firm that really gets the idea and has a strong proposed methodology, but if they haven't done it as many times as somebody who did something that's a not so great idea, the fact that this other firm has not as great an idea, but they have more examples of it, that's going to weigh heavily in their favor, where the firm that might have the better idea doesn't have that 30%. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How would you want to weight it?
I would probably bump up the proposed methodology and maybe even bump up the qualifications and bump down the previous examples. I mean, maybe not change it drastically, but I would not want to just give that advantage because they have previous work examples. We want them to be a good methodology is what we're really getting after.
Yeah, I don't
wouldn't
disagree with that.
Change it drastically, just a little bit to give an edge to the methodology and less of an advantage to the previous work.
So Ms. Greenberg, would you recommend that possibly reducing the methodology by 5% and the examples by 5%, carrying that up to statement of qualifications?
Yeah, you could do 10, 35, 20, or you could do 5, 35, 25. Just something to give more weight to what we really want, which is a strong methodology.
So if you want to bump up methodology by 5, I would state that we probably need to do 10, 35, 25.
That's fine.
That would be an example. It's up to the board's consideration. Any other comments from any other board members? Pete, how do you feel about that? Or Karen?
I feel pretty good. I just want to make sure I get the percentages right. Did we say 10, 35, 25, 30? What was the percentages?
Balance out. You could keep the 5, you could do 35, 25. That would balance out. If you wanted to bump the 5 to 10, you'd have to go like 10, 35, 20. would do it.
Is this what we want?
That would look good.
Don't we have to regard cost as the predominant factor? Not the only factor, but certainly the most significant one?
Right now, it's tied at 35.
I know.
The cost is just as significant as the methodology.
And I
So we
kind of
could-
see the examples of previous work and qualifications as related. I mean, are we looking for number of examples or just quality of an example, even if they have one good example of a past product versus, we're not really looking for multiple, right?
No, I think we're looking for quality.
Yeah.
So you would say quality of proposed methodologies?
Well, quality of previous work, or quality of examples of previous work.
I
Just
think
so it doesn't sound like it's, we want them to send every study they've ever done, but maybe their best one.
Yeah, I
That's a
think
good
Megan's
idea.
making a great point. You don't need to change the language here, and you probably don't want to go too low on the previous work, because if they give one really good, high quality example, we still want to give that weight and merit. I mean, whoever's reviewing these, it just gives them some metric to play with. I'm just trying to make sure that if we had a bidder who had a really fantastic methodology, but they didn't have a great example already to show. And this is all relative too. I mean, the review committee is going to assign points within these ranges, right?
Mhm. Yeah, the system that we use is called Bonfire. You give it a score, it calculates everything for you. So we want to stick with this?
I think that looks acceptable, Pete. But again, I'm responding for the entire board. I would like to hear some other input from other board members.
On the statement of qualifications, is that just the typical procurement things like making sure that they're registered as a business, things like that? So it's not anything other than the basic stuff. Okay.
It's the basic stuff, yes.
Okay. I think that looks fine.
I think it's fine the way it is here now.
So I guess we would need a motion to change these things and a motion to hopefully pass it.
I'll make a motion to change the percentages.
There was a motion by Mr. Story to change the percentages to 5%, 35%, 35%, or 25%, I'm sorry, for the third. Examples of previous work related to cost and service studies. And then 35% to the actual cost to conduct the study. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Stallard, thank you. Any additional discussions? Hearing none. Again, we must remember we're need to be available by video. So all those in favor, say aye and raise your hand.
All right.
Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Chairman, just one note that was brought to our attention with the Open Meetings Act. Members must stay visible during the entire discussion to be able to vote. So that members of the public or those watching can ensure that they were paying attention to what was going on. So if you want to make a vote, you really need to be visible the entire time that the discussion is taking place, please.
All right, I believe I didn't scroll to see who was still visible. I believe Mr. Stallard and Ms. Leonard was visible. Adam, myself, Kim.
It's still a quorum.
you want to do another vote, Pete?
No, I think I think we have a quorum with, those that are visible. So I don't, unless anybody has a technical, objection against that, I think that the motion would pass one way or another.
All right, well, if we may in the future, let's take the document off the screen so we can have full screen view of all the participants
We can do
upon
that.
voting, and that way it'll make it a little easier to make sure everybody's on the screen.
Yes, sir. We can do that. I think
Thank
it's
you. I apologize, I'm working strictly from a laptop tonight, so. All right, what's our next order of business, Pete?
Well, we need to vote on the full RFP language. So we approved the changes. So now we need to vote on the entire RFP language for the specifications of the RFP.
I'll make a motion to approve the RFP in its current state, current form.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Story, a second by Sumeda.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Any discussion required? Hearing none. All in favor,
Aye.
raise your hand, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have a total of 7 voting in favor. Visible. I believe that carries the vote, correct, Karen?
There's 8 plus you, so there's 9 total, and I think everybody's hand was up.
Okay. So any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for all the hard work. I think we got a good document. So thank you. We'll get it taken to the 109 board next week.
The next order of old business is somewhat of a recap or an update on the education subcommittee. Do we have anything available on that, Sandra, or can you give us an overview?
Actually, I think that Karen ought to do it. We haven't totally finished anything. I think we've come to the realization that if we're going to be really effective in encouraging things like recycling, we've got to approach a broader audience than we may have been in the past. And I think Karen's been working on some things in regard to that.
Thank you. Karen, would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, one of the things that, well, I guess we basically established that there are multiple ways to reach people, and we may need to work kind of on those ways individually, I guess. So one of them is at the cart itself, to residents that recycle at home. So, and that was one of the reasons why we had talked with the two, Westrock Recycling and Rumpke, who get some of Louisville's material as well, and trying to make sure that the messaging is consistent. And then bringing the idea that haulers have their own base of education that they might do. So we really do want to get that to be as consistent as we can. I have an example even from over the weekend, I guess in the past couple of days, someone sent a message to me on Nextdoor because they have Republic, and they were confused because they said that their information stated that they didn't accept glass. So of course I explained that they're probably looking at some kind of national page that is as general as possible, but that we do accept glass here. So it's just another example of how, trying to really push that message out that is consistent. And that can be done at the cart to existing recyclers, and also to people who are new recyclers. So if they have a desire to start recycling but hadn't before. So I don't have a whole lot to show, except that the idea of a cart hanger, we use those sometimes where it just sort of attaches to the handle of a cart. So that could be some information could be given to residents in that way, where it's right there, it's right there at the individual home, and it would be different based on a new recycler who's just now getting a cart, as opposed to maybe blanketing the participants already with some information that's kind of an update. So basically, what we use for our cart tags that we use in our Recycle Right program, just like the OOPS tags, it could be very similar to that. So this is one side of that, where it basically just says, we want you to recycle these things. And then, of course, based on these images, we've talked about this before, but the only things that Rumpke does not have on their accepted items list would be this little plastic clamshell and this aluminum pan. So that's where we've had some conversations that they aren't necessarily complete yet, but just to make sure that we're in agreement and that either we remove part of the image or and modify the text, or if there's anything that they're willing to allow to stay. So that's something that still has to be decided. But this is just an idea of what it could look like. And then the other side, since it's a tag, it is two-sided. This is what we have on the OOPS tag. So all I really did was remove the check boxes. So this is definitely just a mock-up kind of thing, but the other side could give information about what not to put in there. So some of the top contaminants. And again, those are the things we can all agree on, that nobody wants this stuff in the recycling. And then having Recycle Coach advertised so that people know, if you're not sure how to get rid of this stuff, then use the Recycle Coach app. So again, it's a mock-up. This is not really complete, but this is the idea that we could have some consistent messaging put out at any cart. And so on that note, I would think that we'd like to have a meeting with waste haulers to understand, I guess just to kind of convene about the idea and get some feedback. Does that seem like something we'd want to do?
Actually, what we discussed was that we needed their help if we were to go down to the level of the individual participant in the process. And without trying to put burdens on them, we need waste hauler input as to how that could be accomplished. Because while a lot of wonderful things are done on social media and things like that, the bulk of humanity that we would hope would recycle probably are not going to be looking at those websites or whatever. So if we could meet with some of the waste haulers, we could probably come up with something that will work for everybody.
I understand what you're saying, Sandra. I think there's more than one way to get the information out there. Without putting the burden on the waste haulers, if they choose to put these out and give it to their drivers, I think that's great. I would love for them to do so. But there's also community groups or HOAs or home rule cities or just interested no waste ambassadors that could be out there to put these on. But we really need to make sure that that's going to be okay with the waste haulers.
Right. And we did talk about that. We've talked about also making the information available in a lot of other places rather than placing a burden on the waste haulers. But we don't want to say anything that creates a problem for the waste haulers by doing it.
Agreed. And I think that it would be a more, I mean, it's a discussion that needs to take place. And, you know, Swims down here is a waste hauler. And to burden the drivers with putting something on a cart is not the greatest of idea, because honestly, waste collecting is a dangerous profession, and you need people to be focused on safety when they're out there. So anything that could distract them, we don't want to do. So
Well, as I pointed out, the Rumpke truck that comes by now and picks up my recycling is mechanized. There's not human beings running around, hopefully.
yeah, and that's another issue that you would have, is you don't want to dismount a truck to go place something on there. That's not something that a hauler needs to be doing either. But yeah, there's so many different ways that things are collected. That's why we need to get that give and take.
Yeah, and I mean, the easiest way is when carts are delivered for new customers, is to have some sort of education that is consistent and from the district. It can be in addition to something if a hauler already has something, but yeah, disseminating something to all participants would be a bigger project. But it could be that based on, you know, that I think that just again constitutes a need for a meeting with haulers and a discussion to figure out how we can help.
And I think that's a reasonable request, Karen. The one thing that I would advise to be very cautious of is to have individuals walking the easement, looking in people's containers and putting tags on there, because people become very concerned, if you will, even though it's on the easement, when strangers are peeking in their garbage can. And we don't want to put anybody in danger. It may sound silly, but trust me, it does happen.
Well, we are doing that already
We've been
with our
doing it.
Recycle Right program.
We've been doing it for months. We only had one incident where somebody didn't get a notification, because we do put it out to the community group and people that we're going to be going to, so that they're aware that we're going to be out there, of course, dressed appropriately with identification. And honestly, the feedback has been fantastic with our Recycle Right program, no matter where we've went, because we've been both inside and outside of the USD. We've been east and west and south, and the feedback has been excellent. And the results have been also fantastic in reducing contamination. So that's why we feel like that cart-based education is really effective, and why that we want to venture into this area first. So I do agree, Bruce, that anybody that's out there doing it has to be head on a swivel a little bit. But if somebody has an objection, you're moving away. You're not gonna.
May I say something to that?
Certainly, Diane.
Sure.
Bruce, I've done that before, and we've trained our staff to handle those situations, to be able to talk to people if they do come out slightly aggressive. And actually, we've solved a lot of problems, like some people don't have carts, so their cart is broken. That's mostly what they really want to talk about. They also want to talk about, ooh, I got a green tag, so that's great. Like Pete said, I've never had anybody be overly aggressive with me when I look into their cart. I have always been open. I've looked at them directly, and I've never felt nervous or scared with anybody coming up to me at all.
Well, if I may explain, Diane, the reason for my concern is in the waste business, we know that law enforcement typically, periodically will come and work with us to do waste audits and looking for drug dealers and meth labs, basically. And normally those bad actors, when they come out and see somebody looking in their garbage can, they know what they're looking for. So that's why I say it sometimes can be dangerous to be peeking inside people's dumpsters.
I think it's a really good point.
Mm.
And one thing that we're not doing is looking in their waste. We're looking in their recycling. Maybe not too many of the drug houses actually do recycle. So that might cut down a little bit on our, I guess, risk there. But I think it's always, no matter what we do today, it's always good to be aware of what you're doing and where you're at. A lot of hazards about being out there on the street, including dogs and all that other kind of stuff. It's incumbent upon us to make sure that anybody's doing it has a little bit of knowledge about being safe, traffic, the whole 9 yards. But I agree that we have to have people prepared for it, and I also think we need to give people notice when we're
What's around them?
All right. Thank you, Pete. Let's see, do we have any other business to address? Sorry, I have to flip back and forth to my agenda. Do we have any one from the public wishing to be heard at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on to announcements. The next 109 board meeting will be February 28th. That's a Wednesday. It'll be from 5:30 to 7 p.m. Hopefully we'll see a lot of you there. And the next advisory committee meeting will be Wednesday, March 20th at 4:30 to 6 p.m. I don't know if you heard Alexa talking back to me, but I must be talking too loud. We have any other comments from any board members, any other issues that need to be addressed this evening? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Dual second by Sandra and Adam. Thank you. I hope everybody has safe travels this evening, enjoyable evening. All in favor? Aye.
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 Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Thanks to all of you for your time and work on this committee. I think we're making progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Everyone.